It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Elizabeth A. Carter, or better known as Elizabeth Dr. E.A. Carter. She's in the building and she'll be talking about elevate your value. What's going on, Dr. E? How are you?
I am great, Shay. Happy to be here on the Happy Entrepreneur Show.
Well, I'm so happy to have you here. You know, there's some folks, Dr. E, I don't get a chance to meet. You're someone I've met on more than one occasion, someone I've had time to spend quality time with, and someone I got to get to know just outside of the business realm. And I certainly admire all that you're doing and the events that you put on, the opportunities you give to entrepreneurs, and how you promote people in their message. So, ladies and gentlemen, the person you're seeing is just up to a lot. But let me jump into it. Elevate your value. The first question on anyone's mind's got to be, what does that even mean? Like, what does elevate your value? I don't know. So question, elevate your value.
Yes,
what does it mean? And
absolutely.
why is that so important to you?
Elevating your value, it really is knowing where you are today, and clearly you realize and understand that there is more out there for you. You just need the tools to understand how to get there. Because value, and people think of value like a monetary value, there's real significance in value. Value is your experience, your intelligence, your exposure, your background, your perspective. That is value. And the way in which you utilize it, we're probably underutilizing it. So to elevate it really is to get you to where you're maximizing all that you bring to the table. And the reason why it's so important to me is that clearly I know, especially for women, we don't. We have so many other things that we're focused on. We know that we have it all going on, but we don't have the necessary tools, or sometimes we don't make the time to empower ourselves to elevate.
You know, as you're talking, there's some folks, thanks for clarifying, they're thinking, all right, Shay, I'm just curious. I work, I have a career, and how can I elevate my value in my career? I think it's a fair question. It's very reasonable. And I know you didn't come here to talk about careers, but how would someone who's watching right now, how would they elevate your value principles or philosophies or framework inside of their career?
What I have is a 3-step framework: set up, show up, and step up. So first of all, set up is your mindset. If we don't have the right thoughts, the right consciousness, the right wherewithal, we're never going to get out of our own way. So that's the setup. Then show up, we have to step out of our comfort zone. We have to show up in places where we wouldn't normally go, show up in places where people wouldn't expect you to be, and show up via using your words and showing off who you are. And the last piece is step up. So once you've gotten past your mindset, you are showing up in rooms. Now it really is showing your brilliance, letting people know why you belong in the room, letting people know and remind them why you were hired. So once people move through that 3-step framework, they ultimately will elevate their value.
That's perfect. I get that. At least it makes sense to me. And I'm wondering, a number of folks who watch this show, and thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate every one of you. They're what we call dualpreneurs, Dr. E. They're working a full-time job. They're a full-time entrepreneur. Some of them are moms. Some of them are dads. Some of them are caregivers. Some of them are involved in their community. And they've got a lot going on. But it does, and I believe it is a fair question, how does that apply to the entrepreneur? When you talk about elevate your value, are the principles the same? If so, okay. What would be different, and how could someone use it as an entrepreneur as well? So I guess the question is, elevate your value. How do entrepreneurs use it?
So the first mindset is the same. And the difference there is actually we're afraid quite often if we're doing this dualpreneurship to do the 100% crossover. We know we have a passion for entrepreneurship. We have a passion and purpose to give and serve others, but we're afraid to leave that corporate job. So the different mindset about being clear and confident that you can do it. Similarly, in the show up, same thing, showing up in spaces that you wouldn't normally. That really, for an entrepreneur, is really making connections, collaborating, finding someone with maybe not the same industry or discipline that you're in, or but a complementary one where you can do things together. And also, when we talk about the stepping up, that now is also doing outreach. And again, you might be stepping out of your comfort zone doing that. I know I'm an introvert. I am not big on reaching out to strangers, but those people are the ones who are going to help you. So the three steps are very similar, but those of us who are playing in both, we have to navigate all of that in addition to our other responsibilities.
Yeah, as you're speaking, we're all curious now. This sounds great. Sounds on point. They're like, but Shay, I didn't get a chance to read Dr. E's bio. Okay. I'm watching this. Maybe they're watching it live right now. Maybe someone's listening to the podcast and you're in their ears. And I know some of you might just have it propped up in the background. And you might be curious, who is Dr. E? Her name is Elizabeth A. Carter, PhD. And number two, what's her backstory that led her to be so passionate about elevate your value? So take a moment. You know the question, who are you? What's the backstory? And how did this all develop?
Well, I call myself a corporate elevation strategist. Me being in corporate for a very long time, not seeing many women of color in upper leadership positions. Matter of fact, there's many barriers that I see. One called broken rung, where we can't even get the first level managerial role. Then we have the glass ceiling, maybe even a concrete or cement ceiling where we can't even see what's happening above us because there's no opportunities allowed to us. Back in 2016, I was laid off from my job, I would say surprisingly. And I didn't want other women to have that happen to them without them having a clear plan of what their next was. That's why I started my company, AAPPEAL, AAPPEAL. That's an acronym for an absolute passion for performance, engagement, analytics, and leadership. And those four areas are really where we need to excel in order to elevate our value. So I now work with women and men, even minorities and non minorities, to allow them to understand where their gaps are in their journey and work with them to fill them so that they can elevate and be fulfilled and have a great life.
What do you say to the person that says, I got it, Shay, I'm there, but my challenge is trying to work with my manager. I don't know if they call it manager, and they're like, does Dr. E as an organization have suggestions on how to best, one, be seen as you talked about, and two, to be able to work with a manager who might not see you like at their level or above their level? So it's probably a loaded question because people are different areas, different spaces. But I think the question is, how do you manage your manager so they recognize you as a peer or will recommend you to maybe a higher level than they are? It seems like a really big challenge for those folks in corporate.
First of all, as leaders, and we call them leaders, managers, they are supposed to help their employees excel and be great. Sometimes a manager may feel threatened by you, even though they probably hired you for the reasons that great skill set, great background, you can do the job, you add value, you can really uplift the team. Sometimes there's some jealousy there. And there are others who will provide you opportunities, will network for you, connect you, mentor you. But if you feel like you have a block, what I always tell people is to make sure you're navigating on your own in the organization. Make sure other people who are in upper levels know who you are. And that may mean you need to volunteer in other areas. there may be other, we have employee resource groups or business resource groups where you be able to volunteer, get involved, meet people, join other external activities, and gain other management skills that you can then bring back into the workplace. Lots of external ways to navigate around, if you will, that person who may be blocking you.
Love it, by the way. And as folks are listening right now, I have a question, and I hope it's in harmony with what we're talking about. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? I mean, it sounds like when you start talking about elevate your value, whether it's for entrepreneurs, whether it's folks in the career space, you kind of light up. So, two-part question. She can handle two parts, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, what do you enjoy so much about what you do? And number two, what about the person just wants to be a better version of themselves? They want to elevate the value inside of them so they can be a better husband. I'm not pointing fingers at Shay Brown. They can be a better son. I'm not pointing fingers at Shay Brown. Or they just want to be a better human being who has more contributions to the world. So if I can be the best version of me and elevate who I am, that reaches out to so many other folks. So two-part question. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing today? And what do you say to Shay Brown, who, did I just say myself, doggone it, who just wants to be a better version of himself?
Well, first of all, what lights me up is when I do work with an individual and they get it and they step out of their comfort zone and lean into the discomfort around the conversation and what I suggest for them to do to be able to elevate. And once they've done it, and they've come back and said, "Oh my goodness, Dr. E, I'm so appreciative of how you helped me. You helped me get out of my own way. Now I can see the future." That is beautiful. And sometimes that takes years. I have had people I've talked with or worked with decades ago. They will come back to me now and say, "Oh, Dr. E, remember we worked together back in 2002? What you did really helped me, and now here I am." So sometimes the thank you has a long tail to it, but that's great. But for those who want to be better versions of themselves, you still have to assess, well, who are you today? And what about who you are today do you want to change? There's still some self reflection in all of this because we have to first admit who we are and truly understand what we may need to do differently. And sometimes that external person, coach, whoever it may be, see things in you that you don't see in yourself. So I always encourage anyone to seek a third party counsel because we're our own worst critics. We will criticize every single thing that we do, but we are wonderful. We are great. We are awesome. We just need somebody else to let us know that and the areas that we are great in. But just some little tweaks to make you a better son, husband, father, Shay Brown.
Well, your life seems perfect. Seems like there's been no setbacks in your life, but we do have a segment here called "Today is my January 1st." Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. And welcome, you can go and say those magical words. Today is my January 1st, and for everyone else, all those folks who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show family. Today is my January 1st, represents our personal mantra. It means you get a fresh start. You get a do-over. It means your past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past is back there, the past no longer equals the future. And so my question for Dr. E, as she's sitting on the other side right now, is two parts. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? What do you hear? And number two, when was the time that there was a setback in your life? Something happened and you had to bounce back. What was it? And how can we benefit?
All right. Well, first of all, what was the first part of the question? Oh, today's my January 1st. What I always do every day, I'm a to-do list person. Many of you are probably the same. You have this running list and you add things to the bottom, you cross off things at the top. You look at the end of the day, you're like, I didn't get anything done. What I've now started to do is I write a brand new list every day. This way I know what I've accomplished and I know what I need to work on today. I found that when I dwelled on that ongoing list, it felt overwhelming. But when I start anew every day, so every day is my January 1st. Here's my list of what I will try to do today. I do not fault myself if I don't get any of it done. That means other things have been prioritized, which is great. But the next day, we start anew. So every day is a brand new day because you never know what could happen. Something great could happen, something horrible could happen. So, talking about a major setback, there was a 10-month time frame recently. I had three major setbacks. The first was May of 2023. My father passed away unexpectedly. Matter of fact, I'm sitting here in his home, my home now, here as I'm still working on it over a year later. Then in November of 2023, my mother passed away. And I was very close to both of my parents. So it really was emotionally crushing to lose them both in a 6-month time frame. And I was a caregiver for my mother and pretty much the same for my father, even though we lived 7 hours apart, but we talked very often. Then 4 months after my mother passed away, I lost my job. So now everything that had value to me, my family, what I was doing at the job was gone. So it was a lot to overcome, but I found that preparation. So every prior January 1st got me to that day because I would have been maybe 10 years ago stressed about all that, worried about how am I going to take care of whatever mom was doing? How am I going to finish up whatever dad was working on? What am I going to do about my bills? I don't have a job now. I have some severance, but I don't have anything set aside. But I am blessed to have been able to have all that figured out and arranged. And I sit here, I would say, stress free. As a matter of fact, all of that has actually freed me to be a better me. I don't have that worrisomeness of, is the phone going to ring? Is it going to be mom in the hospital again? Is it going to be something in the matter with dad? Or is the job calling about something else? That today is not sitting on my shoulders. So I feel that I have learned a lot in my life to get to this point to say, yes, it all was a horrible 2023 and beginning of 2024. It's over now, but now it's time for me. And both my parents would want me to go ahead and move forward and do what's right for me. So I encourage all of you. You're probably, as you Shay mentioned earlier, you're probably, a spouse, a parent, a caregiver, an employee, an entrepreneur, or whatever it may be. All of that weighs down on you, but you really have to make sure you're prepared for anything that happens. This way, when it does, it doesn't overcome you and crush your confidence and your demeanor, and you want to go hide in a corner and not talk to anybody. You need your friends, you need your remaining family. I have all that with me, and it's been a blessing. So that's kind of my comeback story, if you will.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so authentic, by the way. You're an amazing daughter and a great friend and doing some amazing things in the world. As you're speaking and telling us a story about your mom and your dad, I'm curious, what's one of the best pieces of advice maybe you've ever received, whether it's from a relative or it's from a mentor, along this journey of life? And I framed the conversation for the audience that's watching, because I love to answer this question, that I'm going to ask you to come down with the 10 commandments off the mountain, okay? But I'm just asking you to kind of share from your heart, and I hope y'all can hear where her heart is. She's sharing from her heart today anyway. What's one of the best pieces of advice you ever received so you could be successful in life, and why?
Well, my dad always said hard work pays off. As a matter of fact, his mother said he had to be exceptional at everything. And he passed that down to us, even though we have a conversation about that was like the expectation. It was always high expectations, and it was always A pluses, no A minuses, no B's, no C's. But he always said hard work paid off. And a lot of times we don't think so. I've been killing myself for certain jobs, didn't get promoted, didn't get a recognition, didn't get anything. But we have to remember that a lot of times the payback is not quick. And I appreciate now all that he made us go through, being great students as best as we can, great employers, uh, navigating the politics, whether it's at work or in the streets, if you will. But I worked hard to be able to assimilate, if you will, but at the same time, still maintain my uniqueness, as did he and my mother. So I appreciated him always saying, hard work pays off. Just that, again, the word pays may not be immediate. So we all have to don't quit. Keep it moving. You may not see anything right away, but your day will come.
So well said, by the way. And I know on this journey of life, you read so many books, by the way. But I'm curious, what's one of the books you read? And you've written several books yourself, obviously. But what's one of the books you read that's really helped you to elevate your value? And we're going to take the good book, the Bible, off the table if we can, because that's not a book. This is its own separate piece. And we'll take Think and Grow Rich and put that somewhere to the side. But what pops top of mind to you? What might be on your shelf? Not where you are, but back home.
Well, as a matter of fact, I recently had read Grant Cardone's The 10X Rule, where everything you have to do is 10X, 10X. And I'm reading, I'm like, I'm already 10X. How can I be more than what I already am? But he really put it in perspective. And a lot of times we all think we're out there doing everything all the time, but we're not necessarily doing the right things. We're not doing the actions that would, for example, generate revenue for us. We're not doing the right things that would generate the right relationship with another person. We're not doing the right things that would allow us to be fulfilled. So we like to fill our day, but are we fulfilled with what we do? So that was the one book, a Grant Cardone 10X Rule, that I read, and I really internalized some things, and I really enjoyed that book.
What do you do? What do you do for fun? We're not out saving the world, by the way. Help people elevate their value.
I am doing now ballroom dancer. I would say I'm a bowler, but I only bowl once a year at a tournament. But I've just taken up, after both my parents passed away, ballroom dancing. It so happened that they opened a studio in town where I live, and I said, let me try it. I had time, and I took a lesson back in January, and I enjoyed it. So I signed up for lessons and more lessons. I've competed in a competition. I have another competition coming up in August. And I really love, because it's a little bit of cardio, it's thinking, because you got to remember the routines. My instructor is super nice, a great championship dancer, true professional. The whole environment's very friendly. That's what I do for fun right now, besides curating books and helping people elevate their value.
I love it. But how does that relate? Whole another subject. How does ballroom dancing maybe relate to leadership? Because I know one of the core competencies that you use when it relates to elevate your value is, help people be a leader of one so they can be a leader of many. But now you got
Right.
this hobby that just came out of left field, which is good. It's always good to be starting new hobbies. I love it. My wife's starting now gardening, and that's like a new hobby. It's a lot of money, a lot of money, a lot of money. But anyway, it's her hobby. I love my wife. So my question to you, because it's about you, how does ballroom dancing and being a leader, if you had to try to make some correlation between the two, what would you share with the audience? For all my leaders out there, kind of lean forward. I mean, she said I can ask whatever questions she wants. So I'm just curious.
Absolutely. So one is communication. As a leader, we need to effectively and be clear in our communication to our employees so that they all know exactly where we're going, what we're doing, how long it'll take to get there. With ballroom dancing, as the leader, my partner, and I'm the follower, he is leading me. As we are maneuvering the steps, he is either pulling or pushing my hand, or he's got his hand under my shoulder, under my um, waist here, and he's directing me. That's the same, because we need to direct people so that we know exactly where we're going. We're moving smoothly. We're aligned. And the goal always is whatever the end performance would be, whether it's a project that we are pursuing to present, or we are presenting a waltz, if you will, to an audience. That's one. And the second one is about innovation. I have tons of correlations, but just for two, that one, communication and innovation. We need to allow our staff to use their creativity. A lot of times we as leaders have these assignments and we know they've got to get done, but the beginning and the end we know. But the middle, we want to allow our employees the freedom to be creative, to use why we hired them, their experience, their perspective, their diverse thoughts, to be able to bring forth a great product. Same thing with dancing, even though there is very much formality in the structure and the framework of how the dance is done, there's still ways you can spice it up, whether it's how you move your hand or the way in which you shake your hips or little side action movements, and you can't see in my camera, as you're dancing. So there's ways to spruce up the dance without jeopardizing the formality and structure. Those are just two examples of how leadership and ballroom dancing relate.
Ah, I love it, by the way. Thanks for sharing. As we come down the home stretch, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days, your firm, if any? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that you and I have right now?
Great. Thank you so much for that. I'm looking for women as my primary client who are tired of being where they are, especially in their corporate environment, and are not afraid to step out into something new, something different, hearing a different voice. If you're stuck in your ways but you don't want to make a move, I can't help you. So I want people who are ready to make a change today. It is, depending on when this airs, we are in a certain time frame. The following year will approach very quickly. You don't want to get to another real January 1 and be like, oh man, where'd that other year go? You just lost 12 months. You want to work on that now. Those are the people I want to talk to. How you get in contact with me, you can send me an email at info@drelizabethcarter.com. That's drelizabethcarter.com. Info at. And just put in the subject line, Happy Entrepreneur Show. Tell me what you'd like to talk about, and I will send you a calendar invite.
Well, let me say thanks a lot for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It's an honor and a privilege. Can't wait to see you again and have eye-to-eye contact and sit down to break bread. My treat.
Ooh, thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, by the way, because without you, there is no show. We appreciate it every time that you show up. And I never get tired of reminding you, every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as you're watching right now, you're awesome. You're amazing. You're an incredible human being who wants to not only change lives, but make a difference for other folks. And it says a lot about you. And I believe for you, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how well it's going or what challenges are in front of you, today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, your best is still yet to come. Isn't that encouraging? Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name hasn't changed. It's still Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things how we connect again next time. God bless. I wish you success. Peace, Doc. We out of here. Bye-bye.